We translated the most important Greek word wrong, and it ruined how we think about happiness. Aristotle never promised you'd feel good. He promised something far more valuable. Every self-help book, every wellness app, every advertisement that tells you to choose happiness is operating on a mistranslation that is roughly 2,400 years old. The word is eudaimonia. Your textbook says it means happiness. It doesn't. Not even close. And the distance between what that word actually means and what we've turned it into might explain why so many of us feel like happiness keeps slipping through our fingers, no matter how hard we chase it. Here is what happiness looks like in the 21st century. You feel good. That's it. Happiness is an emotion, a pleasant internal state. You measure it the way you'd measure a temperature. Are you happy right now? Rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. The entire machinery of modern life is organized around maximizing that number. This is what the Greeks would have called hedonia, pleasure, and they understood it well. They weren't against it. Epicurus built a whole school around it, but they would have found it strange, maybe even a little sad, that an entire civilization built its highest aspiration around a feeling that comes and goes like weather. For the Greeks, hedonia was a piece of the good life. For us, it has become the whole thing. We have engineered an extraordinary world for hedonia. We can order comfort to our doorstep in minutes. We can scroll through an infinite stream of small pleasures. We have more access to entertainment, convenience, and dopamine than any generation in human history. And yet the rates of depression, anxiety, and what psychologists carefully call a crisis of meaning keep climbing. The pleasure is everywhere. The happiness, the real thing, remains elusive. Maybe that's because we've been looking for the wrong thing entirely. Eudaimonia is a compound word. Eu means good or well. Daimon means spirit, something like your inner nature, the deepest version of who you are. So eudaimonia at its root means something like having a good spirit or being in harmony with your true nature. The best modern translation isn't happiness, it's flourishing. And flourishing is not a feeling, it's an activity. Aristotle makes this point relentlessly in the Nicomachean Ethics. Eudaimonia, he says, is an activity of the soul in accordance with virtue. Read that again. It's an activity, not a state you arrive at, not a mood you cultivate, not something that happens to you on a beach in Bali. It is something you do every day, through the way you act, the choices you make, the kind of person you are becoming. This changes everything. Under the modern definition, happiness is something you feel. Under Aristotle's definition, it is something you build, slowly, deliberately, across the full arc of a life. There is a story the historian Herodotus tells, and whether or not it happened exactly this way, the Greeks treated it almost like a parable. Croesus was the king of Lydia and the richest man in the known world. He invited Solon, the Athenian lawmaker and one of the legendary 7 sages of Greece, to tour his palace. Croesus showed him the gold, the treasures, the sheer scale of his fortune. Then he asked the question he clearly expected only one answer to: who is the happiest man you have ever seen? Solon didn't say Croesus. He named an ordinary Athenian citizen named Tellus, a man who had raised good children, served his city, and died honorably in battle. Croesus was baffled. He pressed Solon further. What about second place? Solon named 2 brothers from Argos who had pulled their mother's ox cart to a temple festival and then died peacefully in their sleep. Again, no kings, no fortunes, just people who had lived complete lives. Croesus was no longer just confused, he was offended. Surely, with all this wealth, with all this power, I must rank among the happiest? Solon's answer has echoed through 25 centuries: call no man happy until he is dead. It sounds grim. It isn't. What Solon meant is that eudaimonia is not a snapshot. You cannot point to a single moment and say, there, that is happiness. It's a trajectory. It's the shape of your whole life seen from the end. Did you live with courage, with integrity? Did you fulfill your potential, not in the productivity guru sense, but in the sense of becoming fully who you were capable of being? You can only answer that question at the finish line. Happiness, in this older and deeper sense, is not something you experience. It is something that can only be judged. Croesus, incidentally, later lost his kingdom, his fortune, and nearly his life. As he was about to be burned alive by the Persian king Cyrus, he reportedly cried out Solon's name 3 times. Cyrus, curious, asked who Solon was. And when Croesus explained, Cyrus spared him. The story had done what Solon's words alone could not. It had finally made Croesus understand. Now, I want to pause here, because there is an obvious objection. Doesn't this just sound like another version of grind harder? Another philosophy that says your worth is in your output, that rest is laziness, that you should always be optimizing. No. And the difference matters. Toxic productivity says do more, produce more, earn more. It measures your life in deliverables. Eudaimonia says something fundamentally different. Become who you are. It's not about output, it's about alignment between your actions and your values, between your daily life and the person you'd want to be if no one were watching. Aristotle was explicit that eudaimonia requires leisure. It requires friendship, deep, sustained, honest friendship, which he considered one of the highest goods. It requires contemplation, time spent thinking for its own sake. These are not the hallmarks of a hustle culture. This is a philosophy that takes the inner life as seriously as the outer one. But here is the part that does make us uncomfortable. Aristotle also believed that eudaimonia requires effort. It requires doing hard things. It sometimes requires suffering, not because suffering is good, but because the things most worth doing, raising children, building something meaningful, telling the truth when it costs you, are rarely easy. A life of pure comfort is not a flourishing life, it's just a painless one, and those are not the same thing. So here is the question I keep coming back to. What if we've had the formula backwards this whole time? We treat happiness like a destination. Something we'll feel once the right conditions fall into place, the right job, the right relationship, the right number in the bank account. And when those conditions arrive and the feeling doesn't stick, we assume something is wrong with us. But what if happiness was never meant to be a feeling at all? What if it's a practice? Something closer to a craft, where the satisfaction comes not from the finished product, but from the years of patient, imperfect work. Aristotle wouldn't recognize what we call the pursuit of happiness. He'd find the phrasing strange. You don't pursue eudaimonia the way you pursue a goal, you enact it. You live it into being, one choice at a time, across decades. And you probably won't know whether you succeeded until the story is over. That might sound heavy. I think it's actually the most liberating idea in the history of philosophy. Because it means you can stop chasing the feeling. You can stop asking yourself, am I happy, every morning as if it's a diagnostic test. You can ask a different question instead. A better one. A harder one. Am I living well? We translated the most important Greek word wrong. But it's not too late to read it again.